If you follow my channel closely, you know that the book Atomic Habits by James Clear has been quite influential in my life in the past year. 2 months ago, I posted a video 1 year after reading Atomic Habits where I share with you how this book changed my life. I mentioned the strategies I used and the habits I implemented. But in that video, I also mentioned that I don't need to really follow the strategies of Atomic Habits anymore in those habits because they really became part of my identity. And I also mentioned that if one day I will want to implement a new habit, I will definitely go back to the book and use the strategies from there. And the day has come. I'm now making some significant changes in my life and I decided to take you along. So in this video, I'm going to show you step by step what I do when I want to implement a new habit. I'm going to list all the different strategies I'm going to use from the book. I'm going to give you examples of the habits I want to implement. And in a few months, I'm going to make a follow-up video so you can see if it was successful. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss that video. So the current situation is that a big area of my life where I'm focusing a lot of energy is CrossFit. I love CrossFit and I really want to get better at it. Over the past year, I focused a lot on my training and my nutrition and getting back to it after pregnancy. My diet is cleaner and healthier than it has ever been. My training is going really great. I am fitter than I was before the pregnancy. So this all is going really well. But I thought it's a time to take it a step further. I listened to the Misfit Athletics podcast. I'm going to link it down below if you're interested. And they talked about the non-negotiables for competitive athletes. And it made me realize that there are still a few areas I can improve outside of the gym to improve my performance in the gym. There are often small things, but as we know from the Atomic Habits, those are actually the things that can really move the needle. So what I did, I wrote down all the non-negotiables that they mentioned in the podcast as part of my brainstorming. I then continued with the brainstorming and wrote down everything that I could think of that competitive athletes could or should be doing. I focused on the following categories: food, stress, personal relationships, sleep, supplements, body weight, non-exercise movements, and training. I then reviewed my notes from the Atomic Habits book to remind myself of all the different strategies James Clear talks about in his book, and I listed down those that I found particularly useful for my case. Number 1, habit stacking formula. You attach a new habit to an already existing habit. Number 2, changing your environment. No one can stick to a positive habit in a negative environment long term. When we are deciding between two options, we will naturally gravitate towards the option that requires the least amount of work. Number 3, find a tribe of people where the desired behavior is normal behavior. Number 4, create an identity around your habits. Number 5, when creating a new habit, start with repetition, not with perfection. And number 6 is habit tracking. The important thing here to remember is that not every strategy is going to work for every habit. For example, habit tracking. 9 out of 10 cases, it just does not work for me. I stopped tracking a habit a long time before I actually stopped doing that habit. But there is this 1 case out of 10 when it works wonders. It is also a good idea to think of multiple strategies for one single habit, especially if that habit is difficult to maintain. And it's also okay to test strategies, and if something does not work, just change it and try a different strategy. What I did next is I went through each of the habits that I identified as desirable and that I wanted to implement, and I thought about what kind of strategies I can take from the Atomic Habits and implement here to support that habit so that I can really stick with it. I have been working on this for several weeks, improving here and there, trying different strategies, and I'm nowhere to be finished. And I'm still adjusting and testing, and I plan to introduce new habits in the coming weeks. I think it is very important to start with a low-hanging fruit, something that you know that you will succeed in order to create a positive momentum and kind of get this feeling like, oh yeah, I can do it. And after that, just slowly introducing more and more habits. There is nothing more discouraging than trying to implement 10 new habits at the same time and failing in most, if not all of them. So I will now go through all 6 strategies that I mentioned, and I'm going to show you how I used each of those strategies for habits that I want to implement in order to improve in CrossFit. The first one is the habit stacking formula. That is my go-to strategy from Atomic Habits, because very often if I want to implement a habit, it's not about me not wanting to do it, it's just me forgetting about it. For example, I'm taking some supplements and vitamins like magnesium and fish oil, and I am not very consistent with it. And the reason is that I just forget about it. So now I wrote down a time when I am going to do it, and I attached it to an already existing habit. So now I take my vitamins while I wait when my water is boiling to make a coffee at around 11 a.m. Another example is in the category sleep. One thing I would like to change is my usage of the phone right before sleeping. Sometimes I'm in bed, I take the phone, I start going through it, I'm like, oh, it's just going to be a few minutes, and then suddenly it is 30 minutes, and that's 30 minutes of sleep that I lost. So now what I do is I made a habit of turning off my Wi-Fi when I go to the bathroom right before bed, to brush my teeth, etc. So now when I go there, I turn off my Wi-Fi, and then when I am in bed, there is not much I can really do with my phone without the internet, so I actually go to sleep. The second strategy is changing environment so that the habit that you want to implement is actually the easiest thing to do. As an example, I struggle sometimes with eating enough of veggies in a day. Instead of forcing myself to eat one vegetable with each meal or something like this, I focused on something that I find much easier, and that is buying. So instead of focusing on how much I eat, I make a habit of buying pre-made, pre-cut salads in a shop, and I always buy enough so that I have one salad for each day up until I go to the shop again. Those salads, they of course have a very short expiration date, so if I don't want to throw them out and I have them at home, I will need to eat them. And it is very easy because once they are in my fridge, I just need to open the fridge, take it out, open it, put it in the bowl and eat it. The third strategy is find a tribe of people where the desired behavior is normal behavior. So in the Misfit podcast that I listened to, they talked a lot about personal relationships and how it's important to set expectations. And I think this is not only important for people that do CrossFit, but for any person that would like to achieve their goals. Talk to your partner and your family so they can support you. I'm very lucky that my husband is a CrossFitter as well. He understands the demands and he supports me in my goals. I also have a training partner with whom I train a few times a week who has similar goals to mine. And our CrossFit gym has an amazing community and I really love working out with them. But I decided to take it a step further. I approached a coach and asked him to help me with my goals. Not only this is going to be another person who will hold me accountable, but he is going to help me set expectations about what is possible for me to achieve and in what time frame. And of course, his advice is going to be tailored personally to my weaknesses and strengths, which should positively translate into my training and my CrossFit performance. Number 4 is create an identity around your habits. This comes down to all the habits, right? I need to see myself as a competitive athlete to make it easier to stick to those habits. If you exercise just for fun, it's completely okay if you stay up late at night, if you take the cookie that your colleague at work offers you, or if you decide to skip a training because you would like to go to the movies. But if I am a competitive athlete, it's very easy for me to say no to those things because a competitive athlete does not do those things. And I have to admit that I struggle with this one because I feel that a person that claims that they are a competitive athlete, they should be a little bit better in CrossFit than I am. But I also know that I don't need to go out and shout to the world that I am a competitive athlete. I just need to view myself as a competitive athlete. And if I do so, it's going to make it much, much easier for me to actually stick with all those positive habits. Number 5, when creating new habits, start with repetition, not with perfection. This is again a little bit about changing your perspective and how you view things. It's easy to say, I'm going to implement all those things and I'm going to be perfect, and then life happens, you fail and you feel discouraged. So from the very beginning of this whole journey, I told myself, this is important to me. I want to make it work, but it's about learning. If it would be easy, everyone would be doing it. So as part of my weekly review, I go through all my habits and I try to identify if there are some habits that I am struggling with. And if there are any, I try to find new strategies I might use to support those habits. Often what has worked really well for me is actually writing down on a paper the reasons why I want to implement that habit and how exactly it is going to improve my CrossFit performance. Sometimes this is all that I needed. One example where I focus on repetition rather than perfection is cold showers. So in the Misfit podcast, I made a very good case for taking cold showers right before going to bed so that you lower your body temperature, you fall asleep faster, and you get a better quality sleep. I live in tropical Queensland and it really gets warm at night here, so this has been one of my priorities. But I've tried cold showers before and I just was not able to stick with it. I just can't turn on the shower to completely cold and then go inside and take shower and then repeat that every single day. So what I'm doing instead is, instead of focusing on full cold showers, I get to the shower, I start with my usual temperature, and then the habit is I just need to make the water colder at least twice, and it has worked wonders. About 50% of the time I end up with a completely cold shower, and about 50% it's just kind of a coldish water. But I know that if I would have been focusing on perfection, I would have failed and stopped with it a long time ago. And the final strategy is habit tracking. I've mentioned before that in 9 out of 10 cases, this is not only working for me, but in that one case out of 10, it works perfectly. So my CrossFit box has this performance program that one can join once they hit a certain level of fitness, and it is my goal to join that performance group because it will mean that I am really fit across different aspects of CrossFit. Our CrossFit box created a table with 20 different movements and 10 different levels that is a mixture of endurance, strength, and gymnastics. And once a person hits level 8 or higher on 19 out of 20 of the movements, they can join this performance program. I personally struggle especially with gymnastics, so I decided to use habit tracking as something to help me with it. I printed out the table, I marked where I am at, and I put it behind me so it is visible, I can see it every day. I also have another paper where I mark each time I train a certain movement. So what I'm hoping to achieve with this is that I will be able to analyze how much time I am spending with each movement, and it will ensure that I actually work on my weaknesses. It will be easy to see that I spend a lot of time on perfecting my bench press, even though it's already level 10, but I did not spend as much time on handstand walking, where I'm not even on that table yet. So I'm really hoping that this is going to help me visualize where I am spending time, and this is going to help me achieve my goals. And that's it. I hope that in next few months I will be able to report on my progress and let you know if I got into this performance program. And that's another great strategy, to announce your goals publicly so that other people can keep you accountable. If you're interested to see if I get into the program and into my analysis of how these strategies help me, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss that video. And if you are using Atomic Habits to reach your goals, let me know down below which strategies are working for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.